Well, good morning. Welcome to the UCCS faculty, staff, and students for our February virtual town hall. Thank you for joining us on this very cold and wintry February morning. So we have more than 300 of you in attendance today, so thank you very much for joining us and making the time for today's town hall. My name is Chris Valentine. I'll be the moderator for today's town hall. Let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to cover today in today's town hall. We're going to kick off today's town hall a little bit differently than normal. We started these town halls almost 2 years ago as a way to keep the campus updated on all things related to COVID. Now that we're hopefully approaching the end of the pandemic, we've heard from many of you that you'd like to hear about other things than COVID. So we've invited two of our students to share a little bit about what they're hopeful for in the future. Following our students, Chancellor Reddy will share his opening remarks. And at the conclusion of his remarks, Chancellor Reddy will introduce our new Vice Chancellor of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, who starts on March 1, but has graciously agreed to join us today for this town hall. We'll then hear from Stephanie Hannenberg, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Health and Wellness, who will speak briefly about COVID resources on campus. And then I'll introduce our panel and we'll answer a handful of questions. As we always do our live questions, there's a link at the bottom of your screen for you to submit your questions. We have an hour today, so we'll do our best to get to as many questions in the time allotted. So if you have questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to drop those into the chat. As soon as we're done with our opening remarks, we'll dive right into your live questions. As always, ask for your patience with any technology challenges. We'll do our best to get back live as quick as possible. So with that, I'd like to kick this off with introducing our students. So our first student who's joining us today is named Mauricio. Mauricio is a freshman here at UCCS studying business administration. We've invited Mauricio to join us and share a little bit about what he's hopeful for. So Mauricio, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for letting me be a part of such an important event and to be amongst the great leaders of our campus. My name is Mauricio Carrera, and I'm a freshman studying business administration with a minor in pre-law. I'm also involved in the Chancellor's Leadership class, the Honors Program, and the Student Government Association. As you may know, we are here to provide our perspective on our hopes for the future. My goals and hopes lie in developing a keen business and legal mind to later apply in these respective sectors. My hopes now are to continue my studies and to finish them in a successful manner and to continue to grow the great friendships and connections UCCS has given me. I want to also be as involved as possible on campus to bring students a great experience. My hopes for the future are to start or run a company that is not just customer-centric, but worker-centric as well. A company that thrives on different perspectives and is also nourished by innovation. I want to build a long-lasting company with a great reputation, great service, and constantly taking on the role of a pioneer for decades to come. This has been a goal of mine since I was young. I want to also develop an advanced knowledge of the law so that I can protect these interests. The education and experiences that I have been receiving at UCCS are furthering that commitment and letting me transform these hopes and dreams into a reality. Programs such as the Chancellor's Leadership class under the great leadership of Sloan Gonzalez and Cody Parrish are not just teaching me how to be a good and effective leader, but an ethical one as well. The faculty and staff here at UCCS have given me the very best educative experience and resources to become the best version of myself. I want to thank all of those that are actively helping me in this journey, and of course, the great leadership that makes it all possible. I'm looking forward to continuing my education here at UCCS and to continue turning my goals into a successful reality. So yeah, thank you.
Mauricio, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. We really appreciate it, and best of luck as you continue the rest of the semester here. We have another student. I'd like to introduce Carol. Carol's a senior in mechanical engineering, and he'll also share a few thoughts about his hopes for the future. Carol, take it away.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. As you mentioned, my name is Carol Hernandez-Bendrich. I am a senior in mechanical engineering this year. I'm looking forward to graduating in May. On campus, I work as a student ambassador at the Office of Admissions, so I give campus tours. I also work as a lab instructor in the mechanical engineering department. I have been the event coordinator at the Latinx Student Union for 2 years now, and as Mauricio, I am a scholar in the Chancellor's Leadership class. To talk about my hopes for the future, well, we seniors have an easy answer to that. We sure all hope that in about 10 weeks we're going to be walking across that stage at commencement. But besides that, I do hope this summer to study abroad. I have a passion for travel, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. It didn't happen because, you know, that virus. But this summer, most hopefully, I'll have the chance to spend 5 weeks in Paris, learn some French, and take my camera along since photography is a hobby of mine. And then in the fall, I'll return for my master's here at UCCS. I plan to go for mechanical engineering again, round 2. So I'm excited for that. And the long-term education is really a passion of mine, and I would love to one day be a college professor. So I'll keep working on that goal. And yes, I would love to come teach here at UCCS one day. So for my last weeks of college, I just want to, enjoy the experience, spend some good time with friends who definitely have been a source of strength these past years. So that's about it for me. Again, thank you so much for having me.
Carol, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts there. Yeah, we all look forward to seeing you there on that stage here. It's, like you say, just a few weeks away. It's not that far at all. Much. Well, transitioning now, the foundation of our town hall is those remarks from our Chancellor. So I'd like to turn the microphone over to Chancellor Reddy for some thoughts. Chancellor, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Good morning. And first and foremost, I want to thank Mauricio and Carol for sharing their hopes for the future with us today. You are the reason we all work so hard so that we can help you transform your futures for the better. So thanks for sharing those thoughts. And I'm always excited to see students because that's what makes us excited to come to work and work hard to help you succeed. So even as we continue to adapt to challenges, both new and old, there is much to celebrate at UCCS. Thanks to you, we're able to start the spring semester as planned with on-campus classes. I'm glad that the semester has gone smoothly so far. This month, we celebrate the approval of 2 new degree programs by the Board of Regents. Starting this coming fall, we'll offer a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering and a Bachelor of Arts in Music. We'll also offer a certificate in Substance Use and Recovery Counseling. These new programs are a testament to our faculty's work to prepare students for the careers they dream of. I look forward to seeing the first cohorts join these programs this fall. New degree programs are just one element of our long-term strategic goals. As you know, we launched the 2030 strategic plan a couple of years ago, and I'm pleased that we are making significant progress on each of the 7 core strategies despite the pandemic. In each of the upcoming town halls, starting in April, we will share our progress on one of the 7 core strategies. But today, I want to share a few updates with you. So let's start with the Online Programs Initiative. In 1996, UCCS created the first fully online MBA program in the nation. Since then, continuing to invest in the growth of our online programs has been a priority to our campus and is a key part of the UCCS 2030 strategic plan. To guide our efforts, Harper Johnson, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Information Technology and Human Resources, is currently serving as our campus online lead. In addition, earlier this month, Interim Provost Kelly Klebe appointed Seth Porter, Dean of the Kramer Family Library, to take on the additional responsibility of being our campus academic online lead. Seth started on February 2nd and has been busy with listening sessions and stakeholder analysis. We are also currently searching for an executive director for online operations. This individual will collaborate with academic units across the university to evaluate existing programs and identify new opportunities to expand online education at UCCS. Really, at the end of the day, our goal is to strengthen the online infrastructure at our campus level. Online programs have always been strongly aligned with our access mission, and COVID has taught us new ways of ensuring their success. Above all, online education continues to be one of the best ways for us to meet students where they are and provide them the education they need to build their careers. So a lot to look forward to on the online side. So let me shift our focus to a different topic, retention. When we talk about retention, more often than not, most people look at that term and think it applies only to students. However, working to retain our faculty and staff is equally important. This would be true in normal times and is even more important in extraordinary times like these, when more than 4 million Americans are leaving their jobs every month, either to explore new opportunities or to retire. This is not just a conversation about numbers, but about real people with real lives. It hurts when people who have been some of the strong pillars of our campus community leave for different opportunities. I know that many faculty and staff have been shouldering additional burdens, both at work and at home. First, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. Thank you for working harder than ever to keep our doors open and for keeping our students on the success track. Your efforts are much appreciated. You are our heroes. Second of all, I know you want to hear about solutions. How do we keep the great resignation from affecting UCCS? I have to admit to you, there are no easy answers to this phenomenon that is taking place across the nation. Please know that the administration, with help from our governance bodies, is committed to exploring and identifying ways to find solutions that could work for our campus. In our January cabinet retreat, we dedicated a significant amount of time to this particular topic. We recognize that we have to be flexible, creative, and innovative as we look into the future. What I want you to know is that we hear you and we are paying attention. Here are just a few things that we have done over the past several months to support and help with retention of our faculty and staff. Even though we didn't meet our budget threshold for salary increases, with help from the President's office and support from our regions, we were still able to provide a 3% base merit increase in January, along with a 1% bonus for eligible faculty and staff. We work with supervisors to support flexible work environment wherever possible. We were able to provide a full winter break, allowing faculty and staff to take time away from work to rest and recharge without using their vacation leave. We invested in many different mental health resources for our students, faculty, and staff. Those are the things we have done so far, but there are lots of ideas we're exploring for strengthening the retention of our faculty and staff. Some of those include continue to work towards a culture of trust and inclusive belonging, working diligently towards fair compensation for all faculty and staff. We want to continue our efforts that started this year with the Aon study by engaging an outside compensation firm so that we can bring that equity to the campus. Increasing professional development and mentoring opportunities. Supervisory and employee training to adapt to the changing workforce needs. Work on thoughtful onboarding of new faculty and staff. Showcasing faculty and staff accomplishments. Working on intentional flexibility aligned with the mission of the campus. And finally, increase communication and marketing channels, both internal and external. And we want to continue to hear from you as you share your ideas. In addition, we now have results from the campus workplace and culture survey. We are very hopeful that the survey analysis will inform us about the things that are working well and the ones that are not working so well. With help from our campus and shared governance leaders, we'll be forming action teams to address challenge areas and propose solutions. So, whether you're a staff, faculty, or student, there is a place for you in this work. So please reach out to your shared governance groups to give input. Your creative ideas are welcome and strongly encouraged. In related news, during our recent retreat, the Cabinet discussed many recommendations from the Future of Work Task Force report. Some of those recommendations that we're evaluating include prioritizing flexible work schedules and location for all employees, including essential workers, creating and updating campus spaces to accommodate our new hybrid model of work, upgrading technology to support both on-campus and remote work, building a strong supervisor training program so that supervisors can lead and manage employees well in hybrid work environments, focusing on recruitment, onboarding, and retention of high-quality employees. And there's several more recommendations, but there's a few highlights that I want to share with you. So I'm very thankful for all the recommendations from the Future of Workforce Task Force members. The Cabinet and I are working hard to prioritize these strategies so we can move forward with some solutions. And now, I have an update about our continued response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been a long 2 years. Since March 2020, we've been carefully watching and responding to public health guidance to keep our campus as safe as possible. You heard me say many times that our number one priority is the health and safety of our entire campus community. That priority continues to guide us even today. We are now entering a transition phase. We're seeing cases drop across El Paso County. Things look even better on our campus. Contact tracing continues to show our positive case rate remains well below the county. While the number of cases is still too high to roll back all of our precautions, we will evaluate changing some of those guidelines. In the very near future, most likely this week, we expect to hear updated recommendations for face coverings from the CDC. Based on their guidance, we are planning to put a trigger point system in place to know if we can ease some of our precautions. The cabinet will meet on or before March 1st to determine how we'll move forward with help from our governance leaders. And now, I have two goodbyes and a warm welcome to share with you. First, I'd like to share that Charlie Sweet, Vice Chancellor of Strategic Initiatives, has retired after 33 years of service to CU. Charlie helped us to turn many of our dreams to reality, including the Hibble Center. Please join me in congratulating him and thanking him for his many years with UCCS and the CU System Office. You can read more about his accomplishments on Communique. I'd also like to thank Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding, who has been serving as our interim Assistant Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the last year and a half. Under her leadership, we established the DEI Task Force and funded 20 DEI projects across campus. I would like to thank Stephanie and wish her the very best as she pursues new opportunities. And now, I'm delighted to announce that Rame Hanna, our new inaugural Vice Chancellor for DEI, is going to start on March 1st, is here with us today. So please join me in welcoming them to share a few thoughts with us. Rame.
Hi, folks. My name is Rame Hanna. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm humbled to be serving as the inaugural Vice Chancellor for DEI at UCCS. I'm so delighted to have the opportunity to virtually connect with you all and very much look forward to the opportunity to learn and listen about the many great diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts happening on campus, as well as uplift and empower the greater agency and social responsibility happening in the community. Over the next few months, my hope is to have the opportunity to get to know you all better by centering the voices and lived experiences of our diverse community. I hope to do this by actively engaging in listening tours, as well as by attending numerous community-wide programs and events. I also hope to facilitate a series of listening sessions and community engagement opportunities once I've had the chance to get acclimated on campus. I'm truly grateful to Chancellor Reddy, the cabinet and deans, the amazing diversity offices, as well as the incredible students, staff, and faculty on campus for centering DEI in all that you do. You'll hear me say this often, as it begs to be repeated, that fostering a culture of inclusion and belonging requires that we all play an active role in creating change. I very much look forward to the incredible impact we'll continue to have throughout our many partnerships and future collaborations. If you see me on campus, please feel free to say hi or stop by my office for a cup of tea. Thank you all, and I look forward to being on campus next week.
Thank you, Rame. Welcome to UCCS. We look forward to seeing you on campus next week. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer on campus when you get here. We're not quite done with our presentation, but I will remind you that if you have a question for the Chancellor or any one of the Chancellor's cabinet, please submit those. The link is at the bottom of your screen there. Drop those in there, and again, we'll get to as many as possible. We're going to have plenty of time this morning for Q&A, so I encourage you, if you have a question, please go ahead and get that submitted for us. So before we get to questions, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Hennenberg, who's our Assistant Vice Chancellor of Health and Wellness, to share just a few thoughts about how COVID is going here on our campus. So, Stephanie?
Thank you, Chris. As the Chancellor mentioned, our incident rates are going down, which is great. Our county just in January was over 1,300, and as of this morning, our incident rate is 114 for the county, which is down even from 150 this same date last year. So we are definitely trending in the right direction at this point. On campus, we're averaging about 0 to 2 cases being reported to us per day, which is also trending in the right direction. The state had predicted in January that we would likely see about 80% herd immunity in Colorado based on the number of cases we were seeing and those that are vaccinated and boosted. I've not seen the new data, but it looks like we're trending in that direction. Why is this so important? Because we really still need people, if you are not feeling well, we need people to stay home. As new variants arise, it happens oftentimes when we're seeing these surges in cases. So the less number of cases that we see, the more likely we are to be successful in keeping our numbers low and not having as many new variants coming in. So again, if you're not feeling well, it's very easy with this variant to think it's a cold. We encourage you, please get tested and make sure you're not coming on campus until you know for sure it's not COVID, so we can keep our trends moving in the right way as we look at what measures we're taking. Our campus COVID resources remain in place. We're still doing testing of students on campus at the Wellness Center. The community testing sites remain a wonderful resource for anybody who wants to use those as well. We have vaccine clinics that the local health department has been coming in and assisting with, and you should have received a link recently for the upcoming one. We will continue to offer those through the Wellness Center intermittently as well. We still have our free masks at the University Center and Rec front desk for anybody who's needing them. As the Chancellor mentioned, we continue with contact tracing, so thank you all for everybody that's been a part of that with us. And looking forward, what are we looking at? Well, we're waiting on new guidance from the CDC, state, and local health departments. As time progresses, there's going to be more discussion about at what point do we move from a pandemic phase to an endemic phase, meaning how do we learn to live with this knowing that COVID is probably here to stay? There's some differing opinions on what the criteria is for when you switch phases, but those conversations are starting at a national and state level. And as time progresses, you're going to hear more about the best ways to protect yourself, making sure you're vaccinated, boosted, if you want to wear a KN95 mask or other face covering that you're comfortable with. So all things for us to consider as we continue to get public health guidance that might be changing in the coming weeks. Just a reminder that COVID has resulted in many issues other than COVID itself. We see a lot of faculty, staff, and students that are still struggling with issues as a result of COVID, but not COVID itself. So now is not the time to lose patience, but support each other more than ever. We're all in this together. I know people are frustrated and tired, but I'm going to say this every town hall. Please give each other grace because it's not easy for any of us. We've all done this for 2 years, and I think we've all had enough, but it is not going away. So please stay patient with each other. And then driving in this morning, I thought it was important to do a big thank you to our facilities crews. They're the unsung heroes behind the scenes that are helping all of us with our well-being. They come in every day to clean our buildings. They clean our isolation and quarantine spaces. They come in early in the morning and stay late at night in freezing conditions like today so that we can all have clear roads and paths on campus. And they have been here every single day since this started, working diligently to keep the campus open. So as I drove in and passed so many of them in the freezing cold, I thought it was important to thank them for all that they do for this campus to help each and every one of us stay here and have the in-person experience. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your advice around COVID and recognizing those who have done so much over the past few years to keep our campus safe and clean. So thank you for recognizing them. So, it's time to transition to our question and answer phase of the town hall. So my clock says we have almost 35 minutes here to do some Q&A. So we only have a handful of questions that have been submitted. So I encourage you, if you do have questions, we really have plenty of time today to get to those. So drop your questions into the link there at the bottom. So let me introduce our panel to you here. So Chancellor Reddy, of course, is going to stay with us to be available to answer questions. Joining him will be Chuck Litchfield, our Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance. Susan Taylor, our Associate Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education and Academic Planning, is with us today to handle some of the academic questions from faculty and students. Carlos Garcia, our Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, is here. Stephanie Hannenberg, our Assistant Vice Chancellor of Health and Wellness, will remain with us. And then Harper Johnson, our Assistant Vice Chancellor of Information Technology and Human Resources, has also joined us there. So we'll dive right into the questions here. So thank you all for being part of our thing and our town hall this morning. So first of all, the question is more of a comment, and came from a couple people. It says, thank you for having the students speak. It was really refreshing to hear that and very inspiring. So to Carol and Mauricio, again, thank you guys for both being part of today's town hall. We all enjoyed hearing your stories. The first question is going to be for Chuck, and it's very appropriate with today's weather outside. This is top of mind for everybody. So the question is, how is the decision made to have a delayed start or a campus closure? Is temperature consideration, the hazards around driving, what are the issues that you and the group look at when you decide to delay or close campus? Give us a little inside baseball here on what happens overnight.
Thanks, Chris. So there's a lot of factors that we take into consideration, and the nature of each storm is also one of the things that we consider. We start by monitoring the National Weather Service predictions about 3 days out, and we have a facilities meeting usually 24 hours before the event to try and determine what types of issues we think we might be dealing with. And then that sets some of the criteria that we look for. We do look at things like the amount of snowfall we expect, the amount of ice we expect, our ability to clear our roads, the city's ability to clear all the major arteries that feed our campus. We take into consideration things like wind and temperature when they are contributing factors to the things that could create an unsafe environment. It is a little different for us than it is for the school districts. I get this question a lot. The school districts, in fact, if you look today at the closure, you'll see the D38 specifically mentioned frigid temperatures at bus stops, right? Because they have children that are at bus stops that they can't be guaranteed will be, clothed properly for those frigid temperatures. For us, the consideration is really the issue of whether people can safely commute to campus, whether they will be able to safely leave campus to get home, and then when they are on campus, whether it is safe to transition between parking areas, between buildings in order to be able to go to class and conduct their activities. We do our best to have bus shelters at all the shuttle places so that individuals don't have to wait in the wind or at least get some sort of windbreak or from the wind chill when they're waiting for the bus stop. And those are really the criteria that we use. When we know that a storm is developing the way that the forecasters have predicted, we have tried to make our delay calls in the evening so that people have time to plan their morning instead of trying to make it, at 4 a.m. before people even wake up. And the issue with closure is always a question of, can we make the campus safe for a predominance of the day in order for classes to be conducted? Or is it a situation where it's going to be hit and miss all day, and the cost of losing all of that instruction for our students and faculty can't outweigh the safety implications?
Thanks, Chuck. And a related question, so keep your mic on. So while you're talking, someone dropped in and says, what's this evening look like? Any chance of us closing early? So I know it's still early in the morning here to make an evening decision, but thoughts on maybe describe what you guys have been looking at through the day and when you might make a call if you have to close for this evening.
Yeah, so one of the unfortunate things about this particular set of storms is that the idea that we'll be dealing with this from a facilities perspective, we will be thinking about dealing with this for about 48 to 60 hours. And so we have a shift that came on this morning to get the campus ready. We will be looking at being able to support operations this evening. Based on what I'm seeing in the weather forecast right now, I think that we'll be okay up to sunset. Then the real question is if the snow develops or is more aggressive than what we expected, then we will have to make some choices about being able to make the campus safe all the way to the end of the 10 p.m. Class time slot, and what the implications would be for tomorrow. It's looking pretty good right now. For the area around campus, I don't think we got as much snow as was expected, and right now we're dealing with a lot of powder and not a lot of caked ice, and so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, so the message today is just dress appropriately, dress for the cold, have your gloves and your hat and all that as you're out walking across campus. So thanks for that, Chuck. So changing gears a little bit, the next question, I'll give it to Carlos to start. So Carlos, question is about the Future Work Committee. I know Chancellor touched on it in his remarks, but the question is simply, what is the update for the Future Work Committee's findings? Can you give us just a little brief what the committee's been doing, where we're at in the process, and maybe reiterate a couple of things the Chancellor touched on?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the Future Work Task Force came up with about 48 recommendations. And so right now the cabinet is sifting through those to see which ones are feasible to implement and which ones are going to kind of give us the biggest bang for the buck, and which ones are going to be more readily available for staff and faculty to be able to work under. So that is where we're at right now. The report has been shared with the committee, and the cabinet has been working off of that report for the last several cabinet meetings. And as the Chancellor mentioned, we also had a long discussion at our retreat in January for this. So more to come. Again, we have to sift through a lot of information and try to make the best recommendations that are going to make the campus and our students successful.
Thanks, Carlos, for touching on that. Next question is probably for Harper, kind of an HR-related question. So the context is, as someone who's been here for years, one of the biggest issues for staff is the issue of we're all wearing too many hats and not enough people to cover everything. So I know the Chancellor talked about retention in his remarks, but what's the administration doing about recruitment? So trying to fill these gaps. So can you talk briefly about some of the resources you guys in HR are working on to kind of fill some open positions?
Certainly. Thank you, Chris. And thanks for that question. So the Human Resources Department has recently started a different recruiting process so that for some critical positions that have been hard to fill in the past, we're leveraging different resources such as Indeed.com and LinkedIn and proactively doing recruitment. So we have 2 recruiters and we have 1 recruiting position that's open right now that actively go out and seek people who might fit our descriptions and actively recruit them, just like we would for other search firms. If we'd hire a search firm, think of it as an internal search firm. We've started to do that. We are looking at, with the vice chancellors and the chancellor and the cabinet, we are looking at the opportunity to provide hiring bonuses, things along those lines. We're actively working with the other campuses to have conversations about what they're doing so that we can borrow and share. When we have good resource pools, can they leverage those hiring pools to fill their positions? When they have good hiring pools, can we leverage those pools to fill our positions? So this is something that we're working on. We do understand that there are openings out there, and the faster that we fill them, the better the campus will be able to take a few of their hats off and focus on a single one.
Thanks, Harper. We're all looking to have some more friends on campus to help us with all the great work we're doing. Next question is for Chancellor. Chancellor, you touched briefly on this in your remarks about the mask restrictions and COVID restrictions. So if you can reiterate, when do you anticipate that you will start easing the COVID restrictions and maybe drop the mask mandates on campus? Can you reiterate that a little bit for us?
So what we've really been doing is every first of the month, so that we can have some kind of a timing rather than ad hoc decisions, we've been trying to manage this. On February 1st, we decided we want to stay the course, right, for the month of February. And things have evolved so rapidly, even within a few days. And so we've been talking pretty much every week in the cabinet, how do we manage the process? I know nobody likes wearing a mask. But like I said, we are committed to student success. That's the reason we continued it. We are seriously evaluating. We'll be talking several times this week. And by March 1st, we hope to release what it would look like. My hope is we'll come up with a decision on how we thoughtfully roll back, where it would be most meaningful and still be supportive of our campus mission of supporting our students. So I would say if you could wait till March 1st. We had to wait for the CDC guidelines. Both Stephanie and I repeated that because it's really important to really rely on the health departments to guide our decisions rather than making ad hoc decisions. So please be patient. Let's really make sure that our values for our Mount Lion family stay intact. We'll continue to be courteous. I just request a lot of patience from all of you. We're not taking this lightly. We recognize the needs. We've dealt with it for 2 years, so I think we can manage it for 2 months. But please know we are watching it carefully, and we'll look into some thoughtful rollback of the mask mandate.
Thanks, Chancellor, for clarify that a little bit. So appreciate that. Chuck, I think I have 3 questions in a row for you here, all on different topics. So here we go. So your first question for Chuck. Harper may have some insight as well. The question is, what is the timeline for filling the Associate Vice Chancellor of Campus Planning and Facilities Management position? That position was recently vacated. Any updates on that large department leadership there?
Yeah, so we'd like to get that position posted pretty soon. We're working on revising the position description right now. And as soon as we can get that approved, then I'll start looking at a search committee, and we'll get that thing posted. I'd like to fill that. Well, I'd like to fill it yesterday, but recognizing that it'll be a big position and we're likely to get a very interested pool, I think it's realistic to hope that we can fill it sometime this summer.
All right, so stay on the screen there, Chuck. Next question is about the budget model. So I know we could probably spend an hour giving a budget model presentation here, but the question is, can you please share about how we're doing preparing for the transition to the new budget model in July 2022? Are we on schedule for that shift? How are things going with that budget model transition?
So the short answer is, I think that we've learned a lot through this parallel process. I think there are some things that we're still trying to decide, but I do think that we are making the kind of progress that is necessary to be able to make the transition. For those of you that logged into the UBAC last week, there were 2 really important recommendations made by the UBAC. Those are currently under consideration by the extended cabinet and the chancellor, and they represent really a validation of the governance process that we put in place. Those things were generated by the model working group. They were reviewed by our support committee and our primary unit committees, which include stakeholders from across the administration and our shared governance. And then they were taken up to UBAC for recommendations, and they're being reviewed. So the governance process we are exercising in a way that is very important for that cutover. The refinement of the model now is down to a very few set of drivers and things that need to be worked out, and we are on schedule to work those out in the next month. That means that we would run the process for the FY23 budget through the model, and we should be ready to cut over. We will have another leadership consultation about that status after spring break, in order to make sure that we have everybody's input to the chancellor, because ultimately the chancellor needs to make the decision about that cutover.
Chris, could I add a couple of comments to that?
Of course.
So anytime we talk about change, it's not an easy thing. And people often pursue change as a negative thing. So one of the things I've been talking to folks when we have these meetings is, I think it'll be good to shift our thinking and say, we're doing it for a good reason. So this change could be very positive. The reason we're doing the model is really, in simplest terms, to increase the size of the pie. As you know, we get about 10% budgets from the state. We rely heavily on enrollments to make our budget. We cannot continue without thinking outside the box and creating that incentive. So at the end of the day, the budget model is about really accomplishing our strategic goals. So if our financial model is not aligned with our strategic plan, then we won't accomplish what we need to. So I just want to give that 30,000 foot level reminder for us as to why we're doing this. Obviously, there'll be complications anytime you shift a budget model. But I'm just thrilled how well everyone is working through challenges and having really good conversations despite the challenges a model change poses. So I'm just grateful to everyone who's involved in this process, how well they're working, talking through complicated issues. So I'm very, very hopeful that we'll make a good transition. We'll have hiccups in the first couple of years. We should expect that. So that we can make that transition and really strengthen the foundation of this campus from a financial sense. So I feel very positive, and we'll all be willing to go through the challenges in the short run so that we can build the long-term future for our campus.
Yeah, thanks, Chancellor, for weighing in there. So this next question, I really thought for Chuck, but Chancellor, based on your comments there, I might direct it to you to start with. Maybe Chuck can fill in a little bit. So the question is the administration and CUSIS considering how to react to the increasing inflation in the U.S. and Colorado? We've had this question a number of different ways, but everyone's acknowledging the consumer price index now accelerating over 7%, and the bottom line is 3 to 4% salary increases don't quite keep up with that. So, Chancellor, maybe a perspective, the regions and how the budgets and all that is put together to address that question.
Sure. There's a lot of concern and anxiety about this. As I stated in my remarks, even making the 3% base and 1% bonus was a huge challenge. In fact, we were talking about a 1% increase prior to that. So without help from the president's office, we couldn't have made that happen. So I'm grateful to the president's office and the regions for supporting us in that. Nobody anticipated the inflation is going to take off. In fact, nobody thought what COVID would do to us. If you look at what happened across the board in terms of talk about recruitment, retention of faculty and staff, talk about the increase in the real estate prices. We didn't anticipate the ongoing issues in Ukraine, with Ukraine and Russia. So there are a lot of external factors that are playing in, but we really can't be making raises without having the money to support those. But this is the reason for all the things we're talking about, the incentive-based budget model, talking about how do we create a strong culture of trust and inclusive belonging. But please know that this is on top of our minds. If I have a dream, I would like to see where our faculty staff don't think about their compensation because they are fairly compensated, and then I can actually focus on what they need to do to accomplish our mission. So that's the hope that I have. So please know this is not something that's taken lightly. Even in the last Regents meetings, that conversation came up about inflation. So we'll continue to work on it, but we need to make sure that we strengthen our financial base to support it for the long term. But we really need to reach that phase where people are not thinking about their pay, but are excited about the work they're doing. So that's my hope and dream. And with all of your help, I know we'll accomplish that.
Thanks, Chancellor. Susan, question for you on the academic side. So I know we've had this conversation before, but the question is, why doesn't UCCS have a plan to transition to online learnings for snow days like today? Obviously, the weather is top of mind. So would it be ever considered to switch classes on a day like today when the weather's bad to virtual for just one day for the safety of our students, staff, and faculty? I know there's a number of considerations around that kind of decision. So can you kind of give us a little background on how that would go?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thanks for that very topical question today. So just in short, I think Interim Provost Clevey recognizes that there are multiple perspectives on how to handle academics on snow days. And so we've had some conversations over the last several semesters, and recently she's asked for some additional input on this. And so I think these are going to be part of a continued discussion. What would be the best way forward that would address all of the different perspectives and some of the concerns that people have around keeping our educational mission going.
Hey, Chris, could I jump in one more time?
Of course.
So part of the challenge with this is, COVID has done a lot of damage to us, but there are also silver linings. So we need to continue these conversations. One of the reasons we stuck with keeping the snow days the way they were without switching to remote is people still have to shovel their driveways. They still have to drop their kids off. There are lots of things you still have to do whether you're remote or not. But the question is very good. We'll continue to contemplate on it and see how do we maximize the technology we built around this to address this. So stay tuned and provide your input.
Thanks, Chancellor. Next question is for Harper. Harper, you wear a lot of hats, so this is the Chancellor announced in his remarks that you're now helping the online program as well, so in addition to your HR and OIT duties. So the question is, one experience in the pandemic for many departments has been an increased desire and demand for online classes, even as we're transitioning back to in-person class offerings. Will there be support for departments that seek to offer their existing degrees as fully online degrees in addition to the regular in-person options? So can you talk briefly about some of the support around the online programs and what folks need to know?
Sure, thanks, Chris. Part of the online program initiative that we've pitched a budget for to the system office, it relates exactly to what you're talking about. We realized through the pandemic and even previous to that our campus has always been a hybrid campus. We've always had students who have taken online courses to fill their needs. We've always, since the 90s, have had fully online programs. And we still have on-campus students who are not full-time on-campus students, right? So we have a lot of people who commute, a lot of people who have families at home that they take care of, they have a lot of work going on. And so we need to be able to address and support all of those different types of our students. So the program is designed so that we can build out the infrastructure to support all three of those types of education delivery. So as to the specific question about will there be additional resources to support a program that wants to convert to a fully online program, that is one of the things that Seth Porter, the Dean of the Library, is working on right now, is talking to each of the deans and getting a better understanding of what programs are available and what desires are out there. And then we'll have to have some method for determining how we go about that. So Chuck's office with finance is obviously in the picture. Suzanne's office with how we're delivering education is in the picture. And based on those conversations, we'll have to prioritize the budget to help throughout the year. So we've delivered a proposal for a 4-year budget. We're working with the president's office and the system office on that budget proposal to see if we can move forward with it, with hopes to have something to deliver to the campus as a more sound proposal coming later this spring.
Thanks, Harper. Staying online there, Harper, another question for you. So switching hats to your HR hat now. So this question is, we know the faculty have a grievance process for salaries. Why don't staff? So is there a process if you have a question about your salary, and we talked a minute ago about the inflation rates and all that.
Sure.
How does a staff person go about addressing that?
Sure. So great question. And yes, there actually is a staff grievance policy that's out there. I can have the team repost a link to that on our HR website. However, with that being said, there is conversation about reviewing both the faculty grievance process and the staff grievance process. With that, we are also looking at how we do this equitably across the campus. So is your salary grievance because you don't think that you're being paid equitably to others? Is it because you think you're not being paid equitably to market? Think of it this way. If we took each individual staff request at this point in time, that let's say I, Harper Johnson, think I'm not paid well. And I come to the HR department and I say, I don't think I'm paid well. Then they have to look at my salary right now. And that could have a ripple effect. What we're trying to do is take a holistic approach to this right now so that we can set a baseline. So we've hired an outside consulting firm to help us look at everyone's salary to set an equitable baseline so that in the future, then we can handle those one-offs. But if right now, if we tried to take each and every individual on campus and do an individual review, one by one by one, the ripple effect would start to bounce off of each other, and we wouldn't be able to keep up with it. We're a pretty small department. So we ask for your patience. We expect this review of everybody's salary and compensation to be finished later this spring. We have brought in external resources. The Chancellor and the System Office have worked together to provide additional funding so that we can move this forward more quickly. And so hopefully later April or May, we'll have an answer so that we can set a baseline and everybody can have a better understanding of where we think that baseline is. And then we can start to address individual requests better.
Yeah, thanks, Harper. I'll let you take a break here. I don't have an OIT question for you yet. So. We have just about 10 minutes left in our time together, so we have time for a few more questions here. So next question is about the budget model again. So Chuck, I'll start with you, but Susan may weigh into this one as well. So Chuck says, what is the current situation of where the Bachelor of Innovation will be housed in the new budget model? My question is kind of in the weeds, but it's an interesting question there.
So when the Budget Model Steering Committee was doing the initial look at the model and defining what units would be primary units, there was a conversation about certain units, institutes, centers, special programs that might be considered as their own primary units. And so the steering committee made some recommendations on that. And the Bachelor of Innovation was recommended to be a part of the colleges that that currently sponsor degrees through the Bachelor of Innovation. Right now, that is the way that it'll remain in the budget model. But the idea that we would have an ongoing conversation about how the Bachelor of Innovation is handled is, I think, something that's really important. But I also want to say that you know, as all conversations about our program should be, the conversation really needs to start on the academic side, and it needs to include our faculty governance and our academic administration. And so, you know, the budget model will follow those things and attempt to create the incentives that the Chancellor has talked about. And so with that, I would kind of turn it over to Susan if there's any of those perspectives that she wanted to share, or maybe the Chancellor has some thoughts on those.
Sure, I can just add briefly to echo what VCAF Litchfield is saying, is that where various of these kinds of units are fitting within the governance structure of the campus is part of an ongoing conversation. So this is something that I know Provost Klebe is working on and having conversations with various areas around campus.
Yeah, thanks for diving in the weeds there on that one. So I know there's interesting to a couple folks. Chancellor, you touched on this in your remarks, maybe a little more detail here. It says the question is, when will the detailed results from the CWC survey be available? And what steps will be taken to ensure that the CWC survey creates change? So thoughts on the survey results.
So first of all, thank you for the really active participation in completing the survey. Some of the questions were presented to the regents and the answers to those. And we have distributed the survey results to the governance leadership as well as the deans. And as they're going to kind of process that one in the initial phase and start making action teams happen. Like I said, I'm very hopeful we're going to learn a lot from those, because a lot of you have participate in the survey. So we hope that as you, over the next couple of months, we're going to be looking to releasing those.
Thanks. This question is for Rame. So Rame, a quick question for you. So this person obviously was part of, met you when you were doing your interview process. So this is coming from the East Coast. What has been your favorite part of the Colorado Springs community so far? You've only been here a short time. So what are your thoughts about joining the Colorado Springs community?
Most certainly. Thank you for that great question. I'm honestly thrilled to be here. For me, there are a few things that I'm overjoyed about. I think the Colorado Springs community has been wonderful to see. In the short time, my partner and my Golden Doodle Corps and I have had a chance to visit Garden of the Gods, which we very much appreciated and loved. We've also had a chance to check out the zoo, which was so fascinating to see, especially in the mountains. I know my partner loves giraffes, so being able to feed them has been quite incredible. But the landscapes and vistas, I wish the light wasn't too bright here, but I have a view of Pikes Peak, and I'm not sure I'll ever get over that beautiful view. So there's so many incredible things. I love the area, I love the dry air, and I especially love the 4 seasons that I very much look forward to. Thanks for that question.
Rame, that view of Pikes Peak never gets old. I've lived here more than 30 years. I still appreciate it every day, so enjoy it. So we just have a couple minutes left. So Chancellor, we have 2 questions, I think, for you that will lead right into your closing remarks. So Chancellor, first question for you. In your opening remarks, you mentioned we have some new degrees. So it says, how do we anticipate the recent Regent approvals of 2 new degree programs will impact our enrollment at UCCS? So thoughts on those new degrees?
So can you repeat that question, Chris?
Yeah, sure. The Regents just approved 2 new degrees that you mentioned in your remarks, the aeronautical and the music degree. How will those impact our enrollment? And I know you've made comments before about, to the Regents that we're always looking to grow our programs and add more.
Sure. So we don't just present a degree because we want to offer to the Regents and say, can you please approve it? There's a long process that happens prior to that, where the college comes up with a proposal, they clear the white paper with the cabinet, they go back and forecast the enrollments, they run it through the UBAC, University Budget Advisory Committee, and it discussed in the Dean's meeting. So there's a lot of things that happen before that. So we focus on the enrollment targets as well as what does it cost to offer the degree. As you know, we don't have enough resources, so every degree goes through a pretty rigorous process. For example, the social work degrees have been an outstanding success. They gave back more enrollments than we ever predicted. So we hope the same thing happens with these degrees as well. Maybe Chuck can address that if he has access to the enrollments that we're projecting for those degrees.
Sure, Chancellor. So both of these degrees are very interesting from the perspective of how they will impact our enrollment. And so I'll start with music. So as everyone recalls, one of our primary mission statement as dictated by the state is to be a comprehensive undergraduate program university. And one of the things that we have seen as we go out and try and recruit students is that students that are interested in the arts and in music frequently ask us, what kind of degree programs we have. And we have a visual and performing arts degree, but one of the things we didn't have was a degree in music. And so one of the things that we think will be a positive influence on enrollment is our ability for our recruiters to go out and talk about the idea that we have both the visual and performing arts and the music degree for those students that are interested in pursuing the arts or music. On the side of aerospace, we know that the workforce demands for aerospace are very, very high in our community. But what's always also interesting is that we have a large number of students who show an interest in UCCS because of the engineering programs that we offer. And our mechanical engineering department for a while has had a track that included aerospace, and there was a lot of interest on the part of students. So when we looked at what the workforce demands were and what our local area school districts were showing for interest in engineering programs, the expansion of aerospace was a natural outcome. And so we do expect a bump in enrollment for the College of Engineering and for the campus overall for the addition of both of these programs.
That's great. Thank you, Chancellor and Chuck, for giving us perspective there. So as we get to the last 2 minutes of our time together, Chancellor, I will turn the last question over to you, which kind of ties right into your closing remarks. So if you want to answer the question and then lead right into your closing remarks, it says the question is, when will the town halls be offered in person again? They offered a real sense of community when we could all get together. So thoughts on that one? I know you have some comments about what we're going to do in March. That's a little different.
This is one of the things I get most excited about, to see people in person. Love to have those. Our town halls have ranged from anywhere from 350 to 900 people. And we don't have space or anywhere that we can accommodate that many people. So My hope is to have it on campus. Maybe Chuck will build a big building for us to have 900 people in one place. But yeah, that's the hope. But I don't see how we can make that feasible. And today is a great example, isn't it? I mean, we got minus temperatures and people are able to sit at home and still participate in the town hall. So there are some advantages to it. But yeah, my empathy and sympathy is with folks that we all want to come back and visit each other in person. So yeah, there are real physical challenges there. So you asked me to make my closing remarks as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to especially thank Mauricio and Carol for joining us and sharing their remarks with us. Next month's town hall will look a little different. I'll be sharing a video message which you can watch at your convenience. As you know, we have a spring break also in next month. So please keep an eye out for that message before spring break. We'll return to this format again in April. Above all, thank you for your dedication to the success of our campus and our students. I ask for your continued compassion, care, and respect for each other that you have shown for the last couple of years to continue as we navigate these uncertain times, because without your help, we can't accomplish what we set out to. So you make me proud to be part of this Mountain Lion family. So thank you so much. Please stay warm.